Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, I was at a lot of different concerts. I was at Muse, I was at the Baroness, Zealand Ardor, and Deaf Haven concert, and then I was at Dream Theater. And it covered the entire scope of different kind of shows that I love to see. Outside of like the really intimate one, I think was the only one that I kind of missed out on because each one was kind of big in scope. Anyway, it did cover both shows that were amazing and shows that were not. And this got me thinking of everybody kind of has those like 3 or 4, even like 10 really great shows that they've been to that they can pull out of a hat when people say, what was your favorite concert? But this also got me thinking, because one of those were really, really bad, which ones were those concerts that I didn't like, or those that were really, really bad? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there are different categories of what makes a bad show and what makes a bad concert. So I've got a couple categories, and I'm going to talk about some of those with examples. And so these are, in no particular order, my worst concerts that I've been to and the reasons behind them. And honestly, most of the time, it really has very little to do with the band themselves. So let's talk about them. And the first up are shows that I've gone to where external influences have made the show really unenjoyable. And this goes completely beyond anybody's control in terms of people at the concert themselves. And the two that stand out for me, obviously, are when I went to see David Gilmour with his Rattle That Lock, as well as when I saw Dream Theater do their Black Clouds and Silver Linings. Now, both of these shows had aspects that I really, really enjoyed, but something happened on the way or before the show that really, really dampened my enjoyment of it. And both were actually to do with a family member. A family member was going to come with us. They were dragging their feet. And within the Dream Theater one, we actually missed all of the opening acts and came in right at the last track of the opening band. So I was exhausted, I was pissed off, and by the time I got to the show, we had missed most of the show, and I was just sitting there being really angry. And it lessened my entire enjoyment of the show. And we also had people that were like standing and doing stupid things in front of us, and we were so exhausted, we just wanted to sit. So anyway, that's that show. The other one was David Gilmour. Again, I got into a really heated argument with this family member again, and they essentially very viciously like insulted me in a very public place, and I just kind of shut down. And throughout the entirety of the concert, I could not get into the music. I couldn't enjoy it at all. They completely ruined my time, and it was a bad concert because of the mindset that I was in. Now, another aspect to this, again, it had nothing to do with the show itself, but there were a few moments where I got sick during the show. And this was when I went to see Deep Purple, and they had Thin Lizzy and Joe Satriani opening for them. And about halfway through Joe Satriani's set, I started to develop a migraine. And so by the time Deep Purple finally took the stage, my head was just pounding. I was getting nauseous. I suffer from migraines. And so when this really heavy rock music was going on, I was starting to get really dizzy. I was starting to almost hallucinate. The pressure in the head was just so great that we had to leave halfway through because I was almost throwing up. So that one, in my mind, it kind of goes down as the worst concert for me, but that's only because of what I was experiencing at the time. It had nothing to do with Deep Purple. Another aspect, and this is something that can be controlled a little bit, is the audience. And I've had a number of really bad experiences when it comes to audiences. The ones that stand out, obviously, for me there was a King Crimson one where at the beginning of the concert they said, please, no photography, no recordings of any kind. We're just here to have some fun with some music. If you want to take any pictures, wait until the very end and you can get a picture of the band. And for the most part, everybody was very respectful of that. But the person in front of me decided to try to record as much as possible. And this drew me right out, and it compromised it even further because of this very lengthy please don't record anything spiel And it was like there was a breach of trust there, and they took advantage of the band, and it really dampened my enjoyment for it, and that's a really big shame. Oh, another thing that is really interesting is when we've got an opening band. Now, this doesn't really necessarily dampen the actual headlining, but when there's an opening band that just kind of destroys it for the rest of the band. Like when I saw Muse, we had Walk the Earth or Walk the Moon, and then I think Maroon 5, no, it was 30 Seconds to Mars. When they opened for Muse, I was just like, this is so bad. Now, the juxtaposition of how bad the opening band was and the actual music itself, that was kind of fun. But yeah. The other thing, and this is going towards what happened last week within the Baroness and Deafhaven show, is the sound mixing. And this is a really big thing that can destroy what could have been a really good show. The ones that go for me are, again, I hate to call out Joe Satriani, but Joe Satriani, when he was playing at Massey Hall, was probably the biggest one because of how loud it was. And Massey Hall is more of an intimate location. And it sounds like they were preparing for a stadium. So it was so loud it hurt. Now, I always wear earplugs, but even with earplugs, it was still too much. And when I went to see Deafhaven, that was probably one of the worst shows I've seen when I saw Deafhaven a couple weeks ago. All that I could hear was the drums and the bass. The lead singer and the two guitars, I didn't hear a thing from. All I heard was the drumming and the bass. And this is fine, but because it was so drowned out, I couldn't get into any of the music. I was just bombarded with the rhythm. And then, of course, there's just a bad show. And this is essentially the band putting on a bad show. Yeah, when I saw Protest the Hero for the second time, they did not put on a very good show at all. It seemed like they didn't even really want to be there. It seemed like an obligation. And of course, there was, when I saw Yes for the last time, and they just didn't have any kind of energy or any kind of like real passion behind it. Yeah, that's definitely more of a letdown in that case. And so that's pretty much about it. Like, those are the different kinds of bad concerts that I've been to. Those where I've had external factors encroached upon me that I really didn't have any kind of control of, that the band and the road crew and the venue didn't really have any control over. We've been to concerts where, they had a little bit of control in terms of the sound mixing, and it just didn't work and it didn't sound good at all. And then you have the crowds, right? Like, I've been to many concerts that were ruined because of the crowd. This is why I prefer a seated location, because at least I have a little bit of control of who's around me. And then you just have straight up bad shows. Like, not everybody can be on their A game the entire time. Because I had seen Protest the Hero before and they had been good, and because I know Yes had been good, I know it's just probably a bad day for them. So yeah, that's about it. Those are some of my thoughts in terms of the bad concerts that I've been to. I mainly did this just to grieve about how bad Deafhaven's mixing was. So yeah, that's about it. What did you guys think? What are some of the shows that you walked away angry from? Was it because of the crowd? Was it because of external factors? Was it because of the mixing? Was it because of the band? For me, those are like the four main things that make a bad show. And only one really is the band's fault, and that's just having an off day. So yeah, that's about it from me. Let me know of some of your own bad shows by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.